Victor Wooten. Victor Wooten's a bass player, composer, author, producer, and recipient of 5 Grammy Awards. He's won the Bass Player of the Year award from Bass Player magazine 3 times in a row and was the first person to win the award more than once. 2011, he was named number 10 in the top 10 bassists of all time by Rolling Stone. My question is, who's the other 9? He's played with everyone from Bella Fleck, Stanley Clarke, Marcus Miller, just a whole lot of people. And in recent years, Vic and his dear friends, fellow bassist Steve Bailey and Derico Watson, are performing his Bass Extremes. And tomorrow night, you can hear them with being joined by John Patitucci as the Berkeley Bass Brigade at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Wooten has also written a novel titled The Music Lesson, a spiritual search for growth through music. He also operates his own record label, Vic's Records, on which he releases his own music. Victor is currently a performance scholar in residence at Berkeley College and directs the Victor Wooten Summer Bass Workshop. He also owns and directs Wooten Woods near Nashville, offering musical and nature workshops. Most importantly, he is a loving being with a childlike curiosity for learning, sharing, and a remarkable zest for life. It is an honor to present to our 2016 Jazz Education Network our keynote speaker, Victor Wooten.
Wow, thank you all very much. What an honor to get to be here, first of all, and then to get to, to be asked to do something like this is an honor. A lot of times we go to concerts or we go anywhere or an event like this and we just show up and have a good time and not really think about all the amazing hard work that goes into putting something like this on. So don't ever hesitate to thank people. I know Bob and all these people that stood up are working behind the scenes for our benefit. The winner of these awards are working behind the scenes, not just when we're in class or when we're in front of them. The people that, was a woman up late last night mopping the floor. It's 2 a.m. These people deserve credit and thanks because they're making our lives better. So don't ever hesitate to walk up to even a stranger and just thank them for what they're doing. You go see a band and you don't like the music, they still put time in. Thank them anyway, So anyway, I was lucky enough I'm the youngest of 5 brothers. And when I was born, my older brothers, Reggie playing guitar, Roy on drums, Rudy on sax, and Joseph on keyboards, they knew right away that they needed a bass player. I laugh too because it sounds like a made-up story, but it's the truth. It really is. So right away, I became a bass player. And then people always say when they hear that well, how could you hold the bass at that age? And this is where it gets interesting. People think you have to hold a bass to be a bass player, right? A baby that's first born is learning English and understands English well before they speak it. Okay? They don't become the English speaker once they can say words, right? So my brothers, I realized after I started winning some awards and things, and that brings up all kinds of thoughts about my mom talking about awards. Maybe I'll get to that in a bit. But when I started being asked to be a teacher, I realized, wow, I didn't learn like most people. And unless you were born into a band like me, you can't be taught the way I was taught. And I'm not saying one is better or worse. There are differences, though. So I had to start looking at, literally, how was I taught? And I realized, for the most part, I wasn't taught. In the same way when a baby's learning to speak, you don't teach them. You just let them talk. Right? The parents don't tell the baby, you got to practice a few more years before I can talk to you. Right? We laugh We laugh because we realize how silly that concept is, but we think it's right in music. We think that the beginners have to practice for a long time before they can play with us. Right? I question that theory. I'm going to share just a few things as quickly as I possibly can, and I hope this is going to sound mean, and I don't mean it this way. I mean it in the greatest form of learning. I hope you disagree with a lot of what I say. Because if we can honestly disagree, now let me change it. If we can peacefully disagree, we grow. Thank you. So I'm not looking for agreements. If you do, that's your choice. If you disagree, that's your choice. As my moms would always say, I'm not telling you this because you're gonna like it. I'm telling you this because you need to hear it. That's what Mom would say. And I'm not saying anything that I'm saying because I think I'm smart, better, anything. I'm just gonna say what's on my mind. And I did write a few notes down on my phone. Because this is jazz education, the focus is here. I want us to always question how we teach, because we have people's lives in our hands. And we need to always question our motives. Always. Because music is changing, our methods may need to change also. So when my brothers would set up to play, they would sit up and there would be an empty chair with a toy plastic guitar sitting on it. No one had to say anything to me. Any little sibling, either outwardly or secretly, wants to be like their older siblings. It's just the way it is. I wanted to belong. I wanted to be like my brothers. So if they sat up and played and I saw an empty stool with this toy Mickey Mouse guitar, I knew that was for me. And it wasn't about place your finger here, play these right notes. It was just about play. Playing was more important than playing right. We have to watch it when we tell people that they have to play right. Because more than likely, they'll spend most of the rest of their musical lives trying not to be wrong. Because who wants to mess up, right? And that's jail. We want to be free. Jazz is freedom, right? Jazz is music, maybe more than any of them, is about freedom. So one of the things I think we should do is teach our students to embrace being wrong. Let them do it, right? When a baby is learning to talk, we don't correct them every mistake they make. If a baby's, a 5-year-old calls his blanket a blankie, we don't correct them. No, you're wrong. You got to change it. Slap their hand or their mouth. No, right? What do? We start saying it like they do. We say it wrong too, right? So the baby never knows they're even wrong. The baby's jamming, to use a musical term. The baby, with their language anyway, is jamming from day one with professionals. From day one, we let them jam with us. We don't make them practice. We don't correct them. They never know they're wrong. How in the world could they ever get good at English? The answer is quickly and free, right? If you called up your buddy or your parent on the phone, all you'd have to do is say hello, and they would know exactly who it is, right? That came through freedom. That came through freedom, not through rules and not through... We talked for years before we ever learned the rules. The rules came second. I question it when we reversed that. I had a lot of people jump down my case because I say, let's play, let's learn the rules later. And I got some popular friends out there that'll tell me that I'm wrong. And I say, great, I like being wrong. But this guy we're teaching can play. And we let the students say if we're wrong or not. But when I look at music like a language, I realize, wow, maybe we should just play for a while first. right or wrong. Fall in love with playing. If we slap that hand right away and tell you how wrong you are, we'll spend the rest of our time, if we stick with it, we'll spend the rest of our time just trying not to be wrong. I was told that 98%, I don't know if this number is true, I'm going to act like it is. I was told that 98% of people that start music lessons quit within the first 2 years. That's horrible odds. As beautiful as what we do is, why are so many people quitting? Is it because music is that difficult? Maybe it's the process. Maybe it's something that we're doing. Maybe, I don't know. But music should be fun. It should be easy, it should be enjoyable, and it should be shared with all. And most of all, it should be free, the same way our language is. So anyway, I grew up around the world. My dad was military. We moved around a lot, but I grew up an R&B bass player, playing Motown. Back in the age in the 60s, when pop music wasn't a style of music, pop was just short for popular. So you listened to the pop music station, you heard everything. And if it was popular, jazz, James Brown, Sly Stone, Beatles, you heard all of that stuff, right? So I'm gonna ask you a question, and this is a serious question because I do really wanna know, and just shout out your answer. But I didn't really grow up a jazz player, so it's still new to me. So my question to you, and feel free to shout it out, is what is jazz? Anybody? Not a trick question, feel free to shout it out. Having fun. Freedom. Life. Groove, improvised music. Show your emotions. Conversation. What was that? A label, expression. We could keep going. We could, but I'm already almost out of time. But here's the interesting thing. Not the answers you gave me, the answers you didn't give me. Nobody told me that, and we could have talked for an hour, and I guarantee no one would ever say that jazz is scales, modes, harmony, clever harmony, soloing through changes. Nobody even mentioned an instrument. So that raises the question then, why do we teach it through those things? If by your own definition, you're not even teaching what you say jazz is. Now, let me change that. We are not. I don't want to point fingers unless I'm pointing at myself too. Right? I raise that question. If this is what jazz is, we should be teaching that first and foremost. Now, as a good jazz teacher, we have to teach scales, chords, modes, the instrument. We do have to talk about that, but don't mistake that for jazz. The notes don't change depending on the style of music. All right? A C major 7 is the same in any style. The rhythms are pretty much universal. So what is it that makes jazz jazz? We figure that out. To me, that's where we start. That's where we start. If jazz is these beautiful things that we're saying, make sure that shows up first and foremost in our classrooms. As soon as we pick up our horn, that's what's going to come out of my horn. That's what's going to come out of my bass, is that freedom. So if we criticize that person for putting a C sharp in a C major scale, is that wrong? Or is it jazz? I have to watch my clock. I think last year I talked for like an hour and a half or something, a couple of years ago. So, and again, I'm just throwing stuff out just to, maybe rattle our cages and make us question. So, again, we have to teach all of these things, but again, remember that these are the tools that we use to play music, to play jazz. Just to throw this out there, I also suggest that when we teach notes, teach them all. Think about it. When you learn a language, you learn the English language, you learn the alphabet. You don't ever skip letters. No one ever let you skip letters when you said the alphabet. We don't use Q and Z and X that much, but you say them every time you say the alphabet, right? And what that does, it assures you that I'm just as comfortable using an X or a Q as I am an A or an E, because I practice them every time. But in music, we start you out by skipping letters. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just saying it how I see it. We start by skipping letters, and we say, here are the right ones. Maybe what that's doing is making sure that in every key, there are 5 notes I'm not comfortable with. What if we started them with those notes too? Not only play them, but what do they do? We know what the root does. We know what the major third versus the minor third. We know what these things do. They make us feel certain things. We know that modes are like moods. Everything has a different feel. What do those 5 non-diatonic notes do also? What if we started there? Learn how to use every note, and then we learn how to break them down. What if we reverse that process? I wonder what would happen. Something to look at, because it's only in the higher levels of jazz that we're allowed to bring the 12 notes back in, or classical. But what if we started with these 12 notes? Why not? So, another thing I'm going to question, and this is, my mom is just running through my head right now, is practicing. We have to practice. We have to practice a lot. But I have a saying that says, show me someone that practices 8 to 10 hours a day, and I'll show you someone that's hard to get along with. I think we used to be able to get along, get away with the bad attitude that came along with a lot of our heroes. I don't think we can get away with that anymore. And even if we can, we shouldn't. My mom told us boys, she would ask us as kids, what does the world need with just another good musician? She said, we have plenty. She said, what the world needs is good people. And she made us boys look at it at an early age. I can remember sitting there and practice, and I was lucky enough, my brothers were all lucky enough. My mom entered my older brothers in the speech contest to make sure that they could speak well. She knew what we were going to have to go through growing up in the times and the places we did. And my brother Roy was great at speaking, and he would win awards, and he would be proud, Mom, I got this award. And in the end, a lot of times when these things would happen, she would just say, well, what does that have to do with me? And it wasn't until I was much older that I really got the full gist of that. Her thing was that whatever we're doing, especially if we're spending a lot of time doing something, practicing this bass with 4 strings, what does it have to do with anyone else but me? So as a youngster, I had to learn to attach everything I spent time on, and not only making me better, but it should make the world better. We are at a place where we need it. Now, don't get me wrong, the world is still more good than bad. I'm not going to get into that. But if you look at a whole daily basis, more good things are always going on than bad. But whatever we put our attention on, whatever we're going to spend a lot of time doing, it should improve not only yourself, but everyone else. So as we're teaching, if there is a way of helping our students see that, and we have to see it first. I know that I'm a better bass player because of the better bass players before me. Growing up, my hero was Stanley Clarke, 8 and 9 years old. I got to meet him when I was around 9. I realize now that all those hours of Stanley in the woodshed made me better. Maybe he saw that, maybe he didn't realize that. But I think we're better off when we can realize that what we're doing should be making someone else better. An example is if I have to move some furniture at my house and I need help. I have a few friends that might help me move my furniture. So I might have 5 or 6 people. But if I'm moving my furniture to your house and I'm giving you furniture, all of a sudden I've got my friends and your friends. I'm going to throw this out there in the risk of offending people. And this is not religion. But let's say there's a spiritual version of that we do have guides, helpers, angels. If I'm doing something that's going to help myself, I believe my helpers, invisible helpers, will help me. But if I'm doing something that's going to help you, now I've got my helpers and yours. If I'm doing something that's going to help the world, I got an army. And the task at that point, more than likely, is easy. And I believe that's why the good teachers are doing what they're doing, is because I guarantee you, he's not teaching for himself. He can see what his students can become. I'm just glad that people like Bob and this organization are recognizing people like that. But what if we all become like that? Where what this beautiful man is doing is the norm. Right? That when we play, here's my task for the next time you play at the jams or whatever tonight, especially at the jams tonight. I'll be around helping with the student jams. Is next time you play at that jam, play in a way that makes, with the intention of making someone else sound better. Not yourself. Right? I guarantee you will sound better, but that's not your intention. My intention is to make someone else sound better. So when the drummer's rushing, instead of getting mad at that, they say, I'm going to make sure nobody knows he's rushing. I'm going to make that rushing sound good. You change that intention, I guarantee you it'll change your playing. And more so, it'll change your life. A lot of us are young, especially the kids. Get out there and live your lives. Be kids, have fun, right? I say don't over practice. Yes, you have to practice, but don't overdo it, right? This may sound morbid, but I guarantee you, you won't be laying on your deathbed saying, man, I should have practiced more. It's going to be, wow, I wish I could see this person one more time. Did I tell this person that I love them? Those are the things that if we're lucky enough to be conscious at that time, that's what's going to be on our mind. So why not think about that now and put that in our music? If we spend all of our time in the practice room, we probably don't have much of a life. And what is music about? Practicing? No, music is about your life. And if you have no life, what are you playing about? So especially while you're young, you will not get these years back. Live your lives. Have fun. Take some risks. Listen to your elders, but also question us. Right? Explore. The world's a beautiful place. See it all. Playing well is not enough nowadays. Right? As Mom said, we need good people. Right? The same way, the way you learn to talk allowed you to have your own voice that your friends will recognize within a few words. We should be able to do that with our instrument also. Just like learning to talk, you copied everyone you heard around you, but you did it in your own way. We want to do the same with music, right? It's not enough to just sound like someone. Oh man, he sounds just like Charlie Parker. He sounds like Chris Potter. That's good, but it's not enough. We want to go further than that because remember, a copy is never worth as much as the original. Even if the copy's better. I can paint a better picture of the Mona Lisa. I can put a real smile on her face and makeup, but it will never be worth as much as the original. Never, right? As a good friend of mine once said, he said, if I, he was talking about himself, and he said, he was comparing, he's a good friend of mine, he's comparing himself to me. He said, if there's 2 concerts in a city, and he was comparing himself to me, he said, if there's one concert is Victor Wooten playing Victor Wooten music, and over here this concert is John Doe playing Victor Wooten music. He said there's going to be a long line for one of those concerts and a short line for the other one. But if John is over here playing his own music, he will develop his own audience. And that's what we want to do. So copy, but as quickly as possible, turn it into your own voice. And the real truth is you have your own voice anyway. And as teachers, we need to recognize that and help them bring that out. Develop that uniqueness that you have. So all of us bass players that think we sound like Jocko, we don't. Right? Right. So as teachers, we want to quickly recognize our students' greatness and enhance that uniqueness and that ability, and refrain from having to form them to fit into a real tight box. Now, once we know our students' goals, we will see what that box is that they are heading for, and we're going to make sure that they are ready for it. Absolutely. But we want to see their uniqueness and really bring that out. What is it that makes one musician different from another when they're playing the exact same notes? There's something else going on. You and me and anyone else could get on the microphone and say the same words, but something about it would be different. That's that uniqueness. And that's what, as teachers, we have to be great improvisers in the way that we teach. And we need to be able to see the changes in the student the way we can see the changes on the page, and see what needs to happen with that student so that they quickly become better than us. That's our goal, right, is to make the students better than us. The other thing I will urge us teachers is to always remain students, because to me that's the mark of a great teacher. We've just really figured out how to be good students. We know how to learn, and we're going to help you continue learning. Cool. So leaving that again with my mom's quote, what does the world need with just another good musician? She says, we have enough. We need good people. Right? I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for listening. And I look forward to seeing you the rest of the weekend. Thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you.